What's up, everyone? My name is Auk Alex. I'm a small Twitch streamer. Uh, my main goal is to help new players progress in the game. And the reason I'm making this video is even though there are a lot of videos out there that help people set up their first Giants team to help progress in the game, I've noticed a lot of new players are struggling to understand the concept of 2, 4, 6 runes and things of that nature. So I wanted to build a team that quite literally anyone who doesn't understand runes could build and get going while they're watching Twitch streams or watching YouTube videos to learn a bit more about the game and to get better. The reason why I'm doing this is because I've noticed a lot of people who don't understand runes will build, I don't know how to say it, but not very well runed monsters, and they'll come into Twitch streams asking, hey, how do I build this monster? You help them with that one, and now the next monster, oh, how do I do this one? There's nothing wrong with that, trying to understand and learn the game, but I feel like while they're doing that, they are struggling to make any progress in the game because they're halted in their progression by asking for a lot of help, waiting for the feedback, and trying to figure out a team to get going. There are plenty of wonderful videos out there but teaching you how to rune these monsters, but if you don't understand what runes to keep, what runes to sell, to know what to build your team with, I feel that this team could be quite beneficial for those newer players. This will not be a 100% successful team. It will be relatively successful, and I'm also doing it on the bare minimum stats I possibly can. I'm actually only using the runes you get for free in the game from the Summoner's Way missions for beating giants, dragons, the free scenario sets that everyone gets. I'm not using any of the random runes that you get, like legendary from beating hell mode of a certain stage. And I am also using the runes down here. So these would be runes that quite literally anyone can get. The only RNG at all is those purple rune sets you get for beating giants and dragons. Overall, mine rolled pretty terribly. So for most people, this team should actually work a lot better. The reason I went with only these free-to-play runes is I feel that it's probably the easiest to copy team for someone who's just getting into the game, wants to make progress, but doesn't really know where to start. The only real requirements for the team are getting Veramos, getting a Wind Marshal Cat, which you can actually obtain from arena points, but with all the summons you get in the game, it should be relatively easy to get one skilled up. She can be non-second awakened, but it's going to hurt the success of your team quite a bit. Crow, who is also obtainable from a mission, and our SDs for his skill ups, which will also be a second awakened unit. Both of these units should be extremely easy to second awaken due to the fact that I actually did it using only the free-to-play runes yet again to clear the second awakened dungeons. I can't view the team right now, but I went with as free-to-play and easy of a team as I possibly could, using Lapis, Shannon, Crow, and Fran. And if you look here, Fran wasn't even 6-starred, and neither is Shannon. Those teams maybe fail once every 60 runs, which is no big deal, considering you only need 56 D-hole energy to second awaken a unit, so you could realistically get both of these done in one day. Now, I'm not saying that this is going to be the optimal team for someone who understands the game a bit more. This is mostly just for those players who really don't get it, which I was surprised to see how many people there are out there who have trouble understanding runes, but I can appreciate that it can be quite difficult to know, hey, how do I rune XYZ unit? What stats should I be looking for? If you start farming GB10 and you just start keeping all the runes or selling all the runes because they're not what you're seeing the high-end players keep, you're going to hurt your progress. You can't expect a 100% safe team right off the bat when you can't farm any runes. So that's why I wanted to make the disclaimer. This will not be a 100% successful team. The goal of this team is to get you farming while you're learning a bit more about runes, and probably about 60 to 100 runs in, you should already have runes that improve the team drastically. If you're past level 27, you can also farm artifacts, which I chose not to use on these units, to make it as simple as possible for even a low level player, because you can get Veramos quite early on thanks to the fusion events for new players. If you add artifacts on, you're adding a lot more survivability and potentially some nice substats, but these are a bit more RNG related, which is why I chose not to use them. It will increase the survivability of your team and potentially the damage. The current team and the runes that I'm using on them are right here. You want Veramos leader skill for the HP lead. I will be showing each rune since I'm not using the exact sets they give you. I am kind of spacing the runes out across the different monsters to try to give myself a bit better of a set for each one. I'll also go over how to improve the team quite quickly afterwards. So right now I'm just going to show you each rune. Should be very easy to figure out which runes these are from the events, because you can just match up the substats with the ones that you have also obtained from the new player events. If you are a returning player, you probably won't have the option for these runes, but since these are such low quality runes, it should be fairly easy for a returning player to get similar stats or oftentimes much better stats. I'll go into a little bit of an explanation of what each unit does, but I don't want to go too in detail on this team, considering this should be a team you aren't using very long term. I will come up with a video later on of a much more improved team with a much higher success rate. Veramos is here for its third skill to reduce attack bar and potentially stun some of the units on the waves before the boss. It can also produce pretty solid damage, but with my crit rate and crit damage, it's not doing a whole lot. Crow is one of the two main damage dealers. As you can see from the stats, these should be pretty obtainable for a new player, especially since I'm just using the free runes. These are the full Fatal Blade set that you get for free just from using energy in the game. So you could just copy and paste this entire set onto Crow. He's here because of this third skill, which can leave a branding effect, but my accuracy is incredibly low, so that won't really matter. He's mostly there for the nuke and potentially a defense break once in a while. Bella Dion is the main defense breaker here, which is why I chose to bring her instead of something like Fran, who can buff attack but does have multi-hits, which can reduce your survivability in the boss and add a bit more of RNG. The strip is really helpful here as well because it can reduce the damage you take by removing the attack buff on the boss. So that way when it revenges on you, because it will, it'll hurt a lot less. The heal here is really nice, and the moving of attack bar is really helpful, but with the 4-turn cooldown, it's not going to be something that you can just hope will keep your team alive no matter how many hits you take. Naomi, the reason why I chose her is she's relatively obtainable for pretty much any player, since you can get one copy from arena points and then use other martial cats to skill it up. If you do not have the ability to second awaken one, you can bring another damage dealer or potentially support if you're okay with a much slower team that's a lot more consistent, pretty much 100% consistent. You can bring a Darian, which is the light vagabond, obtainable from an SD. I chose not to use him strictly because of the fact that this team shouldn't be something you're using for a long time. So I'd prefer just to have a bit quicker of a team, considering Naomi can be used for a much faster team later on. The special thing about her is her passive. The critical rate will be at 100% if the enemy has any harmful effects. Since she's incredibly slow, there is pretty much a 0% chance that there won't be at least one harmful effect on the boss, thanks to Crow, Shannon, and Bella, which means she should pretty much crit 100% of the time, which helps increase your damage quite a bit. She does have a bit of a damage buff by 20% for each harmful effect granted on the enemy, and this second skill here is fantastic for this boss. It launches 2 consecutive attacks on the enemy and leaving a branding effect with 2 turns with a 50% chance. I'm not really relying on the branding effect considering my accuracy is so low, since I am using only the free runes given to you in the game. But the decrease of the enemy's attack bar by 25% can be huge. So later on, once you have better runes, you would want to get a bit more accuracy on her. you can kind of get away with not having a whole lot of crit rate on her just because she does crit quite often thanks to her passive. Shannon is only 5-starred, and I focused a lot of tankiness on her. I put the free despair runes that you're given in the game. Here, I'll cycle through them slowly. Mainly because I wanted the accuracy, speed, and tankiness. And these are the free energy runes you obtain during the game as well. Like I said, you can match them up exactly with the runes that you're given because the substat should be all the same. Including with the purple runes that you get from giants and dragons, you can match those up if I'm using those runes as well, because even though our rolls may be different on the substats themselves will remain identical. Here are the total stats. The reason why Shannon is in here and why she's only 5-star is because she's going to tank a lot of hits. There's no reason to 6-star her if you're only going to be using her for a beginner team. It can be a waste of resources. And honestly, if she's dead, the rest of the team's probably already dead. So it's not going to help with continuing on with survivability because she should be like the last unit that gets killed anyway. The reason for bringing her here is the increased attack power and defense on all allies for 3 turns. It helps with the stages before the boss. You can do more damage, take less damage. Same on the boss stage. Fantastic. This skill right here, I'm not really relying on the despair stuns from the AoE, but they can help a little bit with the boss. I mean, not the boss. The stages before the boss, including the mid-boss. It's quite nice. The decrease of attack speed is huge on the boss because it's less times you're going to be getting hit. But the real showstopper for Shannon is this first skill, believe it or not. And it's because it attacks the enemy with an energy ball. The attack has a 50% chance of increasing the enemy's chance for landing a glancing hit for 2 turns. This goes up to a 75% chance. And glancing means that the boss can't crit on you. It's going to deal very low damage. So that paired with the defense buff will allow even your squishiest units like Crow to survive multiple hits no problem if Bella's heal isn't up in time. Take a look at the team real quick, just so you can kind of see how it runs. Like I said, this won't be 100% success rate. Don't get discouraged if you lose a few times. It does win quite often, and these are only the free runes. So you kind of get what you get when it comes to free stuff in the game. Can't really complain that you can even clear it with these runes, which is fantastic. And the whole point of it is to farm a bit, get some better runes, like for example this rune right here. Okay, never mind. This rune is not not an improvement. This rune is already much better than a lot of the free runes you get. So as you work with the team, you can go, alright, cool. I just got a 15% crit rate slot 3 blade rune. I'm going to go look up some videos, learn how these runes work, and figure out what unit would benefit from that most. Let's take a look at Crow. That rune is technically better than the Fatal rune here, but we wouldn't want to break up the Fatal set. So now we have in our mind, by the way, these are all runes that I've gotten from farming. I have them marked to make sure I didn't use them on the team. Don't worry. You can take a look at these runes now and go, okay, well, if I can replace this rune here with a Blade rune and I have a better Fatal rune, let's say here, now you can start working on improving the team and improving the stats. The first step would honestly be just to farm floor 1 of these bosses, so that way you can just get very basic artifacts, white artifacts that fit on your units to add either, let's say, 200 attack onto it because of the main stats, or up to 3000 HP, which will help significantly with this. I apologize for the random pauses. I'm not used to making these videos yet. I'm just trying to help new players. So if you guys do have feedback about what I can improve in videos later on, please let me know. But after about 100 or so runs, you should be able to improve the units here. And I'll kind of go over what you would want to do if you were to continue using this team to improve its success rate. first thing you would want to do is work on getting a little bit more accuracy on the Veramos and potentially getting a crit damage rune right here. The reason why is this skill can do massive amounts of damage to a boss and it doesn't require attack, so you can keep Veramos tanky with some crit rate and crit damage, and it will output a lot of DPS on the boss, which will help because you're getting hit less, you're doing more damage. Great. You clear the boss faster, more consistent. Shannon, if you really want to, you could 6-star her. I wouldn't advise it. I'd work on maybe making her a bit tankier, but that's all you really need to do to her. Crow can honestly stay on the runes he's currently on. If you do have better runes, fantastic. If not, he's fine the way he is. On Naomi, I would focus on getting much higher crit damage, a bit more accuracy, and if you want, you can lower that crit rate to almost 0 because there's really no point in having crit rate because she should crit 100% of the time. Bella Dion, maybe violent if you wanted to. Just make her a bit more tanky, get some artifacts on her, and you're good to go. The next stage for improving this team would obviously be starting to remove some of the units that don't provide a whole lot of utility here, such as maybe the Shannon. Once you have a bit more damage, you could replace it with an AoE unit. If you get Water Geralt from the free ancient coins you get during the game, he can be huge because of this AoE defense break and the attack bar absorption, so he would be actually really solid for speeding up the team right off the bat. And like I said, this team won't be the perfect team. It's not the best team. If you're starting a new account, you already understand the game. This is more targeted towards those new players who are really struggling to understand the runes. Hopefully this video was helpful to some people. I'm sure there will be people in the comments who suggest better teams for later on, but this is currently the best team I can think of while using only the free runes to help make sure that this team is accessible to everyone. If you really want and you don't like the idea of potentially failing, you could honestly run this on Giants Abyss Normal, which will have slightly lower drop rates, but overall, it'll be a lot easier, a lot faster, and you'll still get a lot of 6-star runes. And let's see here, did we get something actually useful? Okay. This hasn't been a good example of how this team can actually provide more useful runes, but that's Summoner's War for you. I also have been able to complete Dragon's Abyss hard with only the free runes. I plan on releasing a video on that later on. Like I said, not the most optimal team, but it's good to get you going while you're learning. Hopefully this video was helpful to some people out there. I'm sorry for repeating some things a few times. I'm not going to be great at editing off the start. I just wanted to get this out there to try to help a lot of the newer players that I've been seeing coming into the game. I know there's always been a nice wave of returning players, and even them, they can feel a little bit lost because the game feels like a whole new game now with the lack of GB12. Now it's Giants Abyss hard. You can't dot things anymore if you want to complete the highest end content. And if you really wanted to, you could honestly farm floor 10 with this team and you would never lose and you'd still be getting 6-star runes. The reason why I suggest normal or hard is even though it's a lower success rate, it does provide a better quality of runes when it comes to drops. If this was a video that you found helpful, please let me know. And if you guys are interested in seeing a much more cohesive and properly built team with real runes on it afterwards, I can walk through the process of what runes I've been getting from Giants Abyss hard and how I started to improve the team, so that way people who are still learning the game can kind of copy that team, but they'll need a bit of an understanding about runes before they can do that. I think that's just about it. If you guys are interested and you're a newer player or a returning player and ever need help and prefer to have kind of a live interaction, I will link my Twitch in the description of this video. I'm normally live 4 to 5 times a week, ranging anywhere from 2 to 8 hours, and my specialty is kind of just helping new players, hanging out with the community and having fun. If I can't help you, there's a good chance that one of my viewers can, and I hope you all have a great day. If you have any questions about maybe another piece of content you'd like to see done with either only the free runes or what I would suggest doing with the team once you no longer have to just use those free runes, let me know, and peace.